I'm Steve Highsmith. With me on NBC 10 at issue this morning is Pat Toomey, candidate for Senate. I want to follow up just quickly on this BP oil spill, Transocean oil spill, Halliburton oil spill, whatever you want to call it. Is this spill not proof that more regulation and oversight is needed?
We don't know that yet, Steve. It's possible. It's possible that the regulators didn't do an adequate job. It's possible that there was nothing more they could have done. I don't think we know for sure yet. But look, I think we absolutely need to make sure that we're doing whatever it takes to prevent something like this. This is a huge disaster. Now, there are, of course, tens of thousands of successfully operating oil drills all over the Gulf and offshore that have never had any such experience, but you can't afford to have even one like this.
No, I mean, you know, you have basically the size of Pennsylvania being shut off from fishing right now. And that's going to devastate
a huge
that economy.
Right.
What about the cap on liabilities? Would you vote to remove that cap?
It's probably reasonable to lift the cap. I'm not sure that there should be no cap at all. I'd want to study that.
All right. You want to scrap the current federal tax code?
Yeah, we'd be a lot better off without this.
The fair tax, is that what
my preference has always been a flat income tax. You know, something where it's flatter and simpler, an honest, simple system that taxes income once rather than multiple times. You know, we spend several $100 billion a year just complying with this tax code. That is all a dead weight cost on our economy that accomplishes nothing in terms of growth or job creation. If we had a much simpler code, it would free up those resources to much more productive use.
Let's talk about immigration. The Obama administration believes it's getting a bum rap over this whole thing, particularly out in Arizona. It points out, according to its statistics, that it's on track to deport a record 400,000 people this year, 70% of whom are non-criminal undocumented immigrants or aliens, a pace above even the Bush administration. What do you think?
Well, I think that at the end of the day, it's still very clear that we don't have control of our southern border. And there is a huge influx of illegal immigrants and an increasing number of violent criminals coming across the border. And the fact is, Arizona's borne the brunt of this, being the big border state that it is. And when you start to see people being killed, I mean, you know, ranchers being shot and killed on their own property by criminals coming across the border, it's not surprising to me that the Arizona legislature decides they've got to take matters into their own hand. This is a responsibility of the federal government that's not being executed properly.
The laws on the books as they exist today, what's in the Constitution, is that enough and the government just isn't doing it, or is more legislation needed on the federal level?
Probably both. I think there's certainly there is an existing framework that's not fully implemented. I think we need both more manpower, more high-tech surveillance, and probably more physical barriers. Some of that is already contemplated under existing law, but it hasn't been finished. So I think we need to be more systematic about it.
A little more on the tenor of the campaign. Do you intend at all, will you or will you not, criticize, attack Joe Sestak on his military record?
I don't have any intention of criticizing Joe about that. I respect his military career. Well, I don't know what I don't know, but I have from what I do know, I have no basis to do that. I respect Joe.
If he doesn't release his Navy records, is that an issue for you?
No, I'm not going to make an issue out of that. I want to focus on the big policy differences that I have with Joe, and I've said before, I respect Joe, I like Joe, I think he's an honorable man, just disagree with his ideas.
All right, more with candidate for Senate Pat Toomey in a moment. Stay tuned.
You're watching NBC 10 at Issue.